Thanks so much. Christy is recovering from COVID, and she wrote to me, 3 or 4 days ago, when she was certain that she had COVID after failing 2 COVID tests, and asked me if I would present her paper. She is much younger and much smarter than I am. So I'm going to work with her manuscript as best I can, but I will brag for a moment that she's a former student of mine. So whatever merit you find in her paper, and there will be much to find, to approve of, I claim some modicum of influence. Funny animal comics are a genre in which the usually anthropomorphized animal body is a central focus that historically drew upon a tradition of racial and ethnic stereotyping and caricature. In the early days of American comic strips and comic books, children were often the primary audience for funny animal comics. But as the widely popular creations of Warner Brothers and Disney demonstrate, the format has broad appeal. Throughout the 2010s and the 2020s, comic books and graphic novels have increasingly employed talking animals in explicitly political narratives, from youth-oriented titles like Bad Kitty for President and Mayor Good Boy, as well as sequels, Mayor Goodbye Goes to Hollywood and Mayor Good Boy Turns Bad, to dystopian young adult and adult series such as Animal Castle, Animal Pound, Beasts of Burden, Feral, and Stray Dogs. Though funny animal comics engage in a variety of degrees of animalness and bestial ambivalence, the strategic blurring of the boundary between human and animal works to destabilize both, challenging the ideas and ideals of humanity. This study considers how animal metamorphosis performs ideology as a vehicle to explore contemporary issues. The use of animals in political messages is a long-standing practice. The Gadsden rattlesnake, the Republican elephant, the Democratic donkey, and the ethnic and racial vermin of war propaganda are all symbols familiar to us, to which we can now add charges of immigrant consumption of pets. But political communication and rhetorical studies frequently fall short in their exploration of these symbols in broader human and non-human animal relations. This project is an attempt to go deeper by drawing not only on rhetorical critique and literary criticism, but also propaganda, comics, history, studies in humor, and animal studies. I aim to explore the recent line of funny animal political narratives. Today's presentation will offer a brief discussion of 2021's Mayor Good Boy and 2023's Animal Pound. These two titles offer a contrast in tone, style, and target audience. Mayor Good Boy, a graphic novel, proclaims, "The votes are in. The new mayor is a dog." Mayor Good Boy is ready to make change, but with foes around every corner trying to ruin his campaign of fun, will he still make time to enjoy belly rubs? Animal Pound, by contrast, is a darker and more adult work, being a contemporary take on George Orwell's Animal Farm. The published provided premise is, quote, "When animals grow tired of being caged, killed, and sold off, it's only a matter of time before they've had enough. After an uprising puts the animals in control of a pound, they quickly find themselves as comrades, united against everything that walks on two legs." But with this newfound power comes sudden challenge. How best to lay the groundwork for this new democracy? The story, which is still unfolding, explores the challenges of creating a new status quo in which everyone is equal. In Mayor Goodboy, the town of Greenwood seems surprised that its new mayor is a sleepy, cheese-gobbling dog. But most of the residents don't really seem to mind all that much, with the exception of one very loud, cranky, and devious old man. When Mayor Goodboy's election night is disrupted by heckling children, Abby and Aaron Abelman, and yes, they are very able humans, immediately the pup becomes nervous and they come immediately to the nervous pup's aid, landing them positions as mayor juniors. To an older reader, the story may seem to follow the formula established by Nickelodeon and Disney Channel in the 1990s and 20-aughts. Precocious children who somehow never have to go to school, saving the day from impossible, implausible disasters, the trouble they cause away being quickly forgotten by the somewhat clueless adults surrounding them. Lots of gross-out gags about smelly feet, burping, passing gas, and with a smattering of sarcastic witticisms, random silliness, childish pranks, and plenty of junk food. Meanwhile, Goodboy himself seemed to be an unbelievable and unlikely politician, not because he was a dog, but because he was, well, good. Research suggests that consistent personality traits of dogs are fearlessness, social ability, and aggression. Properly, dogs are referred to as, quote, man's best friend, based on our perception of their loyalty, ability to love unconditionally, and innate innocence of the world of humans. Meanwhile, studies in contemporary politics and the International Review of Industrial and Organizational Psychology indicate that the public tends to demonize politicians and that people are likely to describe them as manipulative, untrustworthy, self-interested, power-hungry, and devious. Thus, Mayor Goodboy appears to be a paradox. Moreover, the book, often read primarily as a humorous story of what amounted to a prank war, Mayor Goodboy's main detractor attempting to derail the canine mayoralty, and Abby and Aaron trying to thwart the cranky old man's plans. But like any children's book, it has a concluding moral. The story eventually advocated for community, cooperation, and civic engagement. And that moral underscored the role of the dog as mayor. Here, the dog symbolizes the idea of an eager, kind, and loyal ruler with an innocence that requires the support of others. Furthermore, implicit in the mayor being a dog, aided by humans, is the idea of ownership. Non-human animals play social and cultural functions of family, objects, and property. The latter of these being a widely discussed issue within philosophical and legal consideration of animal rights debates. Malloy argues, quote, media discourses are important in sustaining a range of constructions of animals that are connected, appropriated, or co-opted by other systems of production, and so play a role in the normalization of particular practices and relations, close quote. Thus, as Baker explains, often the non-human animal in popular culture is the, quote, sign of all that is taken not very seriously in contemporary culture, the sign of that which really doesn't matter, close quote. Thus, Mayor Goodboy sets up a citizen ownership of the government with civic engagement accordingly being framed, as a responsibility and a duty, because humans are necessary to advance the dog's political term. Human ownership of dogs intersects with voter stewardship of leaders. However, the very premise of a dog as mayor indicates that humans do not take the political process very seriously. The idea of ownership surrounding human relations with non-human animals is foregrounded in Animal Pound, which observes that the great similarity between cats and dogs, quote, that which binds us together beyond four paws and our hunger for fish and fowl, is that neither of us are free. While household pets may be content, the comic explains, all of man and pet is distilled to its essence in a pound where there is no love or loyalty, only human rule and animal folly. As philosophers Francione and Charlton explain, if animals matter morally, if animals are not just things, they cannot be property. If they are property, they can only be things. If animals are property, they have no inherent or intrinsic value. They have no rights. We have rights as property owners to value them. And as we might choose to value, we value them at zero. Because of this, companion animals are often granted a utilitarian value that assumes that they're happier and better off living in human households than they are in the wild. Such paternalistic or even colonial assumptions about the communal good of others is an ongoing theme in the debates among the animals of the animal pound about what equality looks like for populations that have different needs, namely dogs, cats, and rabbits. Human control of doors is at the center of the animal revolution, and their new government is premised on the ideal that the doors will remain open, an idea that situates much of the comic as an allegory for border politics and resource allocation. While Animal Pound takes inspiration from Orwell's modern fable, it arguably engages the animal metaphor at more levels. While scholars widely acknowledge Orwell's use of anthropomorphism and zoomorphism, they rarely plumb the depths of the animal symbolism beyond pigs as greedy, sheep as passive, and horses as workers. Animal Pound uses dogs and cats as stand-ins for a host of divisions in our modern political milieu. Partisanship, dogs as Republicans with the dog-eat-dog sensibility of individualism, and cats as a liberal elite. Class divisions, dogs as blue-collar workers, being described as living a life of service, and cats as the upper class, described as having lives of leisure. Gender differences, dogs as predominantly male and cats as mostly female. And racial divides, dogs and cats and rabbits versus people of color and immigrants. So in the world of Animal Pound, it is the dogs and cats who are eating the immigrants. Canine packs help the story convey mob mentality, while the feline need for sleep suggests civic apathy. As a side note, Animal Castle delves much further into the relationship of funny animal comics to racial stereotypes. The main characters of Animal Pound are variations of the main characters of Animal Farm, but they're also metaphors for contemporary political figures. A bulldog named Piggy, for example, is the counterpart of Orwell's Squealer and Snowball. But when he dons a red ball cap and starts mugging for the Pound's kitten cam, earning big bucks on donations, he emerges as the comic's specific version of Donald Trump. I'm getting the wrap-up sign, so I'm going to, Christy will kill me, but I'm going to truncate this a bit. The use of anthropomorphism and zoomorphism also make the text polyvalent. There's a certain ambiguity of authorial politics in the dogs and the cats and the rabbits. They have different fundamental survival needs and biological demands than are found in varying human populations. To conclude, the moral of the story of Mayor Goodboy is much simpler. Working with the mayor, little Abby Abelman discovers that even a kid like her and her gross little brother can make a difference in their communities. The Abelmans show how you can contact your representatives. To conclude, Major Good Boy may advocate for community engagement, and Animal Pound may make a case for tolerance, but their respective invocations of flatulence and urination both suggest that politics stink.